Episode 13, CISSP Success Stories with Luke Ahmed, Part 2.
Hello and welcome back to the Cyber Distortion Podcast. We are in Season 2. We are now at Episode 13. And we appreciate you guys for joining us on this adventure with Jason and I. We're getting close to wrapping up the season. We're at the very end of Season 1. We probably have one more episode left in the tank for this season. And then we're going to come back strong again, just like last year, right around the late February, early March timeframe. So we'll be taking the holidays off. But we're going to have plenty of great guests lined up for next season. We've already started on our calendar for next season. So I'm super excited to get into that. But tonight, we have one of the most esteemed CISSP gurus in the industry with us again for a second night. This is awesome. Thank you, Luke, for joining us again. And we are going to get into a very, very important topic. This gentleman that we have with us tonight, again, a continuation from last week. If you didn't see last week's episode, definitely go check that out first. Luke Ahmed is not only a CISSP instructor, not only does Luke have one of the most renowned CISSP Facebook member pages on the internet for people that are studying to take the exam and try to get over the hump of that exam. He also is an author, and we're gonna jump into the book that Luke wrote, which is entitled. And Luke, if you don't mind, could you show the book?
Sure.
People can see what it is.
That is issue number 1. It says "Not for Resale." This is the first book that Amazon sent to me after they confirmed that it was uploaded to Amazon, and they said, "This is your author's copy. This is issue number 1. This is like Spider-Man issue number 1, Batman issue number 1."
So you just need a big Sharpie with your signature on the cover there, man. That thing is awesome.
Do I have that one? Maybe I should do that right now. Should I do that right now?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Right,
hey, man, you got to autograph the first copy.
Let's do it. Should do it. Should I put it under my name? Is that where it
Yep.
goes? Let's do it.
Oh, see, this is history in the making right here.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Bye-bye.
There you
There we
go.
go.
Copy number 1.
That's awesome.
Good
Copy
idea,
1.
Kevin. Good idea. Great
Dang,
idea.
that thing's worth a fortune on eBay, I bet.
That thing is
All
worth
right,
a fortune as it is because of the value it produces.
Dude, I'm telling you. And so for those of you that are studying for the CISSP, if you have not picked that book up, you need to do more than just getting in and networking with other people that are studying. That book right there holds the key. And we're going to get into that. It's How to Think Like a Manager for the CISSP, which unfortunately for myself came out after I struggled to pass the exam the first time. I did fail my first attempt at the CISSP. And the key reason why, and I get it now, I did not understand the ISC squared mindset. But that did not stop me from picking up the book after the fact, which I did. I own the book. I've read the book. It's a great book. Every one of you need to read that book too. It's a bestseller on Amazon. It's got over 500 reviews on Amazon that are 5-star ratings. And it's got a 5-star rating now, and it's for good reason. And I have no doubt, had I picked up that book and used it as my last resource to study right before taking the exam, it would have opened my eyes up to the mindset much, much quicker, and I would have probably passed my exam much, much faster. So, with that, I want to hand it over to the author. Luke, can you please talk to the listeners a little bit and explain why did you write the book in the first place? And what is it about this book that teaches them about the mindset that you're able to capture better than any other book that I've read out there?
Well, that's a huge compliment, and I wish I would have written it in time for your exam, Kevin.
Me too, buddy. Me
I wish
too.
I could have done that. Hey, just real quick, isn't it amazing? Like, this book is like, it's like a thin. It doesn't even have space for the title on the spine. Like, there's no space. They're like, your book is too small. We can't put your title on the spine. I'm like, oh, that's gonna. I don't know how I feel about that, but I guess that's what I have to do. It. This is all I wrote. Like, isn't it crazy? Like, 60 pages, a 60-page book is now one of the top 6 books of all time, competing with all the books that are like 1,000 pages.
Wow.
Like, it still boggles my mind. Like, 1,000
Yeah.
page books are like the top 5 books, and then you have my little book, which is like a mandatory book now. Like you have to get this. It's crazy. Like I don't say that showing off. I'm just, every time I say that and I see anybody leaving a review, I was like, wow, somebody, and the pictures I get, some of these pictures are from like, Malaysia
Yeah.
or Ghana or Egypt or like, there was another gentleman. He escaped a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago. There was a huge civil war in Sudan, huge civil war, the government versus the military or something like that, and he escaped that, and he's still studying
Wow.
for his CIS, and he's just like, I am excited. I have something very special to show you tomorrow. I'm like, I hope it's a place to live and like safety for your life, right?
Right.
Something
Right.
like that. And he's like, look what made. And he became a refugee in Egypt. They took in all the people from Sudan. Maybe refugee is not the right word, but one of those things. But he's like, look what I got. I'm like, whoa, you got my book all the way in Egypt? So he has the book all the way over. This made it around the globe. I got some guy who has the book in the Seychelles, which is like a very remote tropical. It's basically a Windows wallpaper of a beast that you see, and you're like, I wish I could be there. So that's where that book is at. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Yeah.
It's off the
I've
coast
seen that
of, like,
wallpaper.
Yeah, it's off the coast of like Sri Lanka or something like that, and it's made to like the most remote areas, and I just can't believe it. So the 60-page book is now one of the top 6 books of all time for CISSP.
Wow.
And like I used to read the Mike Chappell book. Even Mike Chappell hit me up, but not to name drop or anything, guys. I'm name dropping here. He hit me up one day, and he hit me up on LinkedIn. He's just like, "Hey, Lou, good to know you. I don't know how we're not friends. I thought we'd get to know it. I've read your book. Thank you for your book. I think you're doing a great job." And I was like, "Yeah, Mike, thank you for that." First, I was all excited. I'm like, "Mike Chappell inbox drop? This is the guy's book. This is like one of my idols when I was studying." So I was like, "Wow, this guy's amazing. He wrote this book."
Yeah.
And now he's hitting me up, and he's like, "This is a pretty weird space we work in, aren't we?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then with the book, it's like, I don't want to say there's a competition or anything, but I do like to win, right? So it's like all of a sudden I'm now competing. From the idols are now my rivals in this, and it's a mind war for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I
Yeah.
gotta tell you, man,
And then
that's incredible. Even that story is incredible because it's talking about a path of doing something that you were inspired to do and seeing it go so far to where it's now, at a level with all of the other greats that,
it's
we've all
crazy.
been
It's
studying
crazy.
from. Yeah.
And I just see and it's almost sold 10,000 copies, and I'm like, I was just glad if it would sell one, and that
Yeah.
person actually passed his exam, and to see it like churning out. And I thought, just somebody in our Facebook group, if only my Facebook followers knew about the book and helped me out and downloaded it or got the paperback, that would be great too. But it's spread across, like, every study experience I see now has this book on there. Even if they've never heard about my CISSP course, they've never heard about the videos or anything like that, the book is still there. I'm like, man, this is a crazy life that's happening right now.
Yeah.
Well, and your group, you talked about your Facebook group. If they were the only audience that saw the book, it's amazing to me when you think about the fact that so many of the people that have joined your Facebook group are from outside of the U.S.
Yeah.
Which tells you how awesome social media is, the reach that social media has to help you get your word out. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Word of mouth is a powerful thing, but when it extends beyond the boundaries of a country, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason for the Facebook group. I'm like, I'm just addicted to how many different people I can talk to, their experiences, and where they're coming from. The original, I think this is, I started this book about a couple of months before the pandemic, and I just told myself, I'm like, I'm a CISSP instructor. How do I legitimize myself? Like, how do I make myself official? Like, how can I make it? Look, if you're going to be successful, you're going to have to think this way. How can I make it to the top? Like, how can I make it up there?
Right.
I want to be legitimate, like, and do that. So I was like, you know what? I just, maybe there was also an element of me trying to make some cash too. I was like, I was like, yeah, let me yank the udders of this cash cow real quick.
Yeah.
Let me see what else can get on here. And then,
how long did it take you to write it?
This was about so I started in 2018 and I finished in early 2020. So about, I think it was over a year and a half. And of that year and a half, the last 7 months were 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. There was sleep between 2 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. That was my sleep time. That was for 7 months. Not a healthy lifestyle. Because and then when I was editing, because I did my own editing, and I had an editor too, but I also did my own editing too. I was AP English, guys, so I'm a very literal person. Very good at writing. I have to correct
Nice.
AI sometimes.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
so does Jason's wife.
Yeah.
yeah,
she is.
Yeah, I feel that. I was like, I want to say you have to. Don't correct me by saying must. I'm not going to say must. I want to say have to.
That's funny.
And to edit it, I would use that magnifier on Windows computers, and I would pick one line out of the book and magnify it so it's only 5 words, and I'd study those 5 words for any error, any wrong usage of grammar of anything, because this isn't fiction. This isn't a storybook, because if I write a storybook, nobody can refute me, right? It's my imagination. I can write whatever I want. This is like a study book. Like whatever I write in this, it has to be irrefutable. People can't come back and say, this is wrong, you did this wrong. I had to make sure everything had a backup to it. So everything in the backup and a reference to it. So everything's legit.
Yeah.
The original title for this book was going to be 25 toughest CISSP practice questions. That was the original. And it was going to be this big graphic of like, a bolt, like a giant industrial bolt locked on, like tough guys. This is a tough book, guys. Tough questions. And it just didn't seem right. Just kind of off. And I talked to my wife, and I see like our wives are a very strong element in our jobs. And it's like 25 toughest CISSP practice questions just sounds like every other book. Like what should I call this? And she's like, what is the problem people have with the exam? Like what is the problem people say, like, what's the most used frequency of the phrase? And how to think like a manager is the most used term.
Absolutely,
like,
it is.
I was like, why don't you call it how to think like a manager for the CISSP exam? I'm like, that is an excellent title, honey. That is excellent.
It's the perfect title.
Isn't it? Like, you can't resist that title. You have to get that book. You can't resist.
Well, that's what gravitated me to the book. Was I knew I needed to change my thinking, and there was a missing ingredient. And when I got that title, I'm like, I'm interested in knowing what's different about this over all the other things I've been studying. And that's what led me to it. And then once I got into it, I'm like, exactly. This is exactly the linchpin that was hanging me up. And if I can continue to approach each one of these questions the way the answers are structured around the questions in your book, I'll be golden. And it just started changing my thinking.
I remember early on in my studying that I kept reading hints and study guides that would reference keywords. They said, as you're reading the ISC squared questions, you need to look for these specific keywords along the way, right? What is the best way, or what is the safest? There were a bunch of keywords. I don't remember all of them, but the point was they were trying to stress that those keywords were critically important to that particular question, because the keywords in other questions are different. And I think everybody's looking for that, especially people that have studied for this exam for any amount of time. They realize this is a freaking nightmare for anybody to study for. And if you fail it, it feels like your life's over and you got to start all over. But they're always looking for what I call the secret sauce, right? What is the one thing that's going to get me over the hump, that's going to give me an advantage against this exam that no other resource out there is going to give me? And that's what this is. And when we say, it's the mindset is how to think like a manager. This is a managerial exam. We've said it before. And I think that's the key, is this book is so important because of that.
And you hit on that about answering best, most, least, primary, greatest. They may have taken some of those keywords out, but those words determine the outcome of the entire question.
Absolutely, yeah.
Best? Like, how do you tell what is the best? Like, what is the most? Like, most is a quantity. How do you quantify an answer that is the most? You might get a question that has the word most in it, but they're talking about something about a database or like data disposal. Like, how is the most of that anything? How do you make that correlation? So the original title was 25 toughest questions, CISSP practice questions, and I just wrote 25 random questions and provide explanation. No energy, no thought, no care. I was like, I'll put this out. I'll make some money on this. Then my wife said the title, How to Think Like a Manager CISSP Exam. I was like, yikes, that changes all the content in this book. I can't just write a book that says how to think like a manager CISSP exam and just have random questions that don't mean anything. Wiped out everything that I had, and I had to start all the way from the beginning. I'm like, yeah, how do you think like a manager for the CISSP exam? And by this time, I was about 3 years in as a CISSP instructor, 3 or 4 years in. So I've read the book a whole bunch of times. I have this idea of what they want to be, what they called a concept. And the CISSPs also says that, you got to have 5 years experience. It is recommended you have 5 years experience to take the exam. You don't have to have it. And they say that because it's really important, because having that experience in information security, that direct experience, really helps out during the exam. And I've heard of guys who's had 25 years of security experience. They read the book, they skimmed the book once, passed the exam. It wasn't the book that helped them; it was the experience that got them through.
Right.
But the thing is, experience is helpful, but there are some hard truths, some hard concepts you just have to know. You have to know that without a policy, nothing happens in the organization. So if there is a business continuity, there's a disaster recovery, what do you do? And the answer is not what your instinct says, not what you think. As a technical guy, we're like, oh, disaster, quickly go into disaster mode, cancel that transaction, take down that VPN tunnel, disconnect that server. That's the wrong answer on the CISSP exam. That's going to get you the wrong answer. That's going to make you not see congratulations.
You got technical.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
and I'm guilty of that too. So the question was like, what do you do? So, well, it comes from higher level, like the higher level thinking. And the core concept is nothing happens in the company without a policy. I'm like, okay, so that is a concept that's never going to change. That is a hard concept that you have to know for the exam. How do I turn this into a practice question that explains it in a way that people understand the question, the choices, which are all similar, and the explanation that goes with each choice, not only of why it's right, but also why the answers are wrong. I think that's really the most important part when you're studying. Like, okay, you got the answer right, but don't just move on. Understand why they gave you the other choices as well. Because you're going to spend like 3-4 minutes on one question on the exam, and you're going to try to figure out process. You eliminate 2 choices, and even that is hard. Eliminating 2 choices in the exam is hard.
Yeah, it is.
But that's right, and that's just the first step. If you can eliminate 2 choices, you've increased your chances. Now you're just left with 2. Now you got to determine which one it is. And to do that, you have to draw on that mindset.
Yeah. That was really good points there. I think, as you were saying that, an interesting thing that stood out to me was that when I first went through this, the reading the book and looking at, my first instinct is to be, okay, did I get it right? All right. If I did get it right, I still wanted to know, because my instinct was these other answers were actually pretty good too. So why are these other ones not also right? And so it led me to have that answer in the book, right? If you didn't have those in there, this contrast of this one's right, but this is why these other ones are not correct. The best answer for this particular question. Then there's
not
still
the best.
Yeah, there would still be a piece missing for me. The fact that you were able to close the loop on that helped me make the correlation between how do I continue to look for that same type of pattern as I move forward. And the second thing was, I'm a very logical thinker. So as a technologist, I'm always looking for the logical explanation first, and then all the other pieces that follow along or around it that I need to consider. And that was a detriment when I took it, or especially when I was studying for it the first time, because I was getting caught up in the logical thing that should occur. And there are so many other elements that you have to consider in order to answer the right questions, not just the most logical answer that you should apply. That helped me make that differentiation between the two. And even to the point where you're talking about starting with the policy, nothing happens without a policy. Funny story, before we started this episode and before you got on, Kevin and I was having this conversation about me trying to pass a policy and have final approval on something that we're trying to do, and being so frustrated because this is a need to have. This isn't a nice to have. You don't just say like, oh yeah, we got our time. We could take our time and get this done whenever. This policy needs to be done because you can't move forward without having this policy in place. And so it's interesting to me how that mindset still sticks with me today. It's not just something you learn and you walk away from.
Yeah.
And the policy is still a process, right? There's the senior management has to, they don't just write a policy, there has to be a process. One of the most important things, I think this is the most important thing, is look at all the processes you have to learn from beginning to end. Domain 1, BCP DRP process. There's a process. There's the initial process. There's a business impact analysis. There's a recovery strategies. There's testing the strategies, and then there's implementation. This is a process. In domain 8, software development lifecycle, there's a process. Early initiation, you talk about the design of the software, you design it, you deploy, you test it, you deploy it, and then you dispose of it. This is all a process. You have to know these processes. And one of the common questions I get is, what's the exact process I have to know for incident management? What's the exact process? Please don't give me any answer. I just want to know the exact process. Please give me that answer. Cybex says this process. Sean Harris says this, and you're saying this. Which one am I supposed to believe? And I'm just like, you're not supposed to believe any of them. They're suggested processes. It's like what we said earlier. The process that you use for one company is not going to be the same way that you do it for another company. But for the exam, you must know just the general idea of a process. All processes start with the same thing. Initial, just talking about it, and just initial, like getting approval for it. You have to know the processes, because on the exam, you're going to be given a situation where something has happened, and they say, what happened here? And you're going to have to identify the process, and you're going to have to identify where that process was broken.
Yep.
So in order to know where the process was broken, you have to know the actual process. So the book really hammers home the idea that everything is process oriented and process based, and you have to know the process, the general idea of the process, in order to fix it on the exam, because that's what you're trying to do. You're not trying to fix the technical answer, you're trying to fix the overall business process that's happening. Where is that process broken? Okay, there was a phishing email. There was a user came down and clicked on a phishing email. That's fine. What are we trying to fix here? The malware, the antivirus? Okay, the antivirus got rid of it. Okay, good. We're done. We're done with that situation. Let's move on. That's not the process. The process is, hey, the malware was taken care of, but where did we fail in that process? Was it the perimeter router? Was it at the edge router? Was it the user awareness training? Or did our AV not get updated? And where did that fail? And if there's not a process for that, we need a process. So being process oriented is a very heavy part of this book, and to the CISSP. You don't even need this book to know about process. You just have to get to know the process. This book just makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
19 times out of 20, it's the user awareness process. The stats don't lie. Yeah. The stats don't lie.
Yeah. It's my favorite acronym is PICNIC: problem in chair, not in computer.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. That's really good. So hey, let's move on a little bit, and let's highlight even something that you have created from a community standpoint that's really cool and great. Your Facebook community that you've created has done amazing. This Facebook group called CISSP Exam Preparation, Study Notes and Theory, which I believe now is like 53,000 members.
Yeah, I think it's 60 members shy of being 53,000.
Oh my goodness, man. That's a lot of people. It is,
we need to push this. We need to get 60 more members. Come on, guys. Come on. You can do better than
Talk
this.
To your friends.
60 people. Yeah. Share the site. Come on.
And I believe people aren't leaving, right? They probably land at the site trying to figure out, additional information that can help them on their CISSP journey. But then they stay. Right? They stay for some period after they're completed their journey, either to share or to help or support. It is a thriving community. And that's what's so powerful about what's been created here. That's how I originated there. I ended up finding the book. I read through the book. The book led me to the community. The community helped me stay engaged. And even inspired me to continue to move forward when things weren't, going as well. And then afterwards, it also helped me to stay engaged, to give other people, ideas and inspire them to continue to move forward. So it is a community that is live and thriving and doing very well. But can I just ask you, so like, how long have you had the Facebook group? And when you got started on this group, what inspired you to really just start this thing?
And you remind me of something when you said that earlier. Somebody said a long time ago, like they found this group so helpful, and the diversity of people that are here from all over the world, all economic statuses, all political situations, all different business environments. That if the actual world was a lot like this group, we'd be a lot better off.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yes.
We got people from everywhere in there, and they're not talking about anything but CISSP. I also keep a very strict rules on the group rules on that. Like I call myself like the best dictator of that group there is. Like if there's something that's going negative or sarcastic or something that's I'm not liking, I shut that down right away because nobody likes reading that.
Yeah.
And no need to try to be a tough guy and like try to act. This is just a simple CISSP group. It's been around for years now. This started with about 10 people. One of the founding people was one of my buddies who lives in Dubai, the guy who did the covert operation for me, who met the guy in Dubai, and also Prab. Prab was also one of the original guys on there. It was 10 people, and I was studying for my CISSP exam, and I just started creating these practice questions just out of my mind, and I started posting them, and I didn't really have an answer. I'm like, who can answer this? And like 10 people would answer, and then the next day there'd be like 15 people, and that 15 would turn to 100, then 5,000, then 10,000. To what it is today. And it's what you guys said earlier as well in the last episode. You guys said it is people from all over the world, the huge social media reach and access. A lot of people have said to me, is like, why don't you create a group on Discord? Why don't you create a group on Reddit or these other groups? I'm like, first of all, I don't have time for all that. And second of all, like, Facebook, everybody has Facebook. There's like rickshaw drivers in Bangladesh who have Facebook. All right. Like once I saw that, I was like, this has huge reach.
Yeah.
And like I get these messages, and people direct message me, and they say hi, and I say hi back, and they're like, "Oh my God, you responded!" I'm like, "Yeah, I respond to all my messages. I may not respond right away, but I respond to every single message I've ever received in the last 8 years." And just as you said, Jason, you came into the group, and for some reason, we like hearing about other people passing, and we also like hearing them failing. And more importantly, if you stick long enough with the group, we like seeing them fail, and then we like seeing them overcome that, get encouraged, and then pass.
Yes.
Like they'll pass and they'll fail in January, and then pass in April, and the entire group is just happy for them because they're like, maybe I can do that too. So it motivates, it encourages. And people on that group, as you said, they pass and they come back and tell me, it's like, I don't have any social media. I've blocked all social media, but I have this group because I come back. I want to help people, and I like learning from everyone. And I like the feeling of being here. I like the feeling of this group and being part of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what it is. I mean, if you think about how long we all spent and how long everybody spends preparing for this exam, to have a community like that to go to and just share ideas and share concepts or ask questions on something that maybe you don't get a concept. Well, I'm going to present that question to the group and see if anybody else can explain it to me better than I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. Somebody needs to explain it to me in a way that I can get it. But when you invest months of your life into an endeavor, and the CISSP is by God an endeavor, it's not a simple thing to do. And when you get into that and you have this community and you start to see other people struggling with the exact same problems you are, to see them post, whoa, a freaking wasp fly by me here in the old studio. Anyway, that'll be a trivia question later. What episode did a wasp fly by?
Right.
I don't want to kill you. Leave me alone. So, I mean, I guess where I'm trying to steer this is that people love the community aspect of it because other people, if you're failing, there are other people failing. When you pass, there are other people that have passed, but you can kind of share how it happened for you and experience that. And there is a joy in seeing other people succeed. There really is. And I think that's what keeps people coming back.
there's also a phenomenon, yeah, and there's and I like seeing that too. And there's some guys and girls and men and women who ping me and they're like, I can't do it, I failed, I give up, I'm not gonna be able to do it. And I'm like, look, I've heard this hundreds of times, and but just by talking to you, just by seeing how much you're struggling and not giving up and coming back, I am telling you, you will become a CISSP. You just have to keep continuing. But the phenomenon I was talking about is we see a lot of the people talk in the group. Oh, by the way, Kevin, just remind me. I noticed you first in the group because you would post these funny memes on there, like really hilarious cybersecurity memes. And there'd be those people that kind of like took it seriously and would comment something that's like, dude, it's not that serious. But your response was never like, yo, stop being, this is just to me. Your response would be something like casual, like, haha, yep, I guess you're right. Or I never looked at it that way. I'm like, hey, this guy's a nice, positive guy. He doesn't get involved in all that.
Yeah.
I like that about you.
Yeah.
I don't like drama. I don't like trolling. I don't like trolls. I'm not about that. I'm not about that. I mean, I get why people, in fact, when you said, I don't allow it, I don't tolerate it, I'll just delete the post if it starts going that direction. I don't blame you. I'm kind of the same way. I don't have time for that. Life's too short.
Look at how much time we're spending on our platform, on this podcast, on my course, on this book. We've put in hours of our own personal time. Nobody gets to come in and drop some random crappy comment and then run away. No, you don't get to do that. That's going to be deleted right away. If you want to do that, you got to put in the work, man. You can't just say that and walk away. But the phenomenon I was talking about is, we all talk around the group and encourage each other. There is at least 30 to 35% of the group that are just silent followers. They never say anything. They just observe and like it. And at the end, when they pass, like, silent follower here, I've been with this group for 3 years, never said a thing, but I passed.
Everybody gets excited the day they get that sheet that says congratulations, and they want to go tell the world, right? Where are they going to go? They're going to go right straight back to the community that helped them get there.
But I find that
but that's good too, right? Because I think that there are people that want to participate in the community and just don't know how, right? And the biggest value is the value that we give, and as a result of giving that value, someone being able to do better or win or succeed from it. I mean, for me personally, I don't need to know that. It's great when I know that, but I don't need to know that, and I will still believe that I am providing value to people. And otherwise, if I didn't believe that, why would I continue to do what I'm doing? And so I'm happy to be able to give value, and if it can impact someone, that's awesome. That's the purpose that I'm trying to do. And if it doesn't, I'm still going to do this thing because I want to hit those individuals that maybe can't say or can't share that they are getting something out of it or need to be quiet. I want them to win too. So I appreciate that group as well. I do think it's interesting though, because when you look at the group and you look at the participation in the group, there is a lot of constant participation. People are constantly involved in. And I look at some of the questions that come through too. And even now after I passed it a few years ago, and I look at it and I'm like, that's a pretty good question. I'm not quite sure how I would answer that. And I'm curious to know, so I'll hurry up and create an answer because I'm curious to know how everyone else is going to answer it. So I can kind of size that up and see. And there's sometimes I'll answer and I'm like, oh, actually, these individuals here are making some really good points. I could see how it might flow that way too. Now, right or wrong or indifferent, what it's doing is it's making me think. It's making me think deeper about a topic that maybe I would not have thought a whole lot about if I wasn't involved in the group. And that's value. That's a lot of value.
Well, and regardless of what the question is, there's at least one person that's a member of that group that is an expert on that particular question.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that helps.
And I think a lot of the silent followers are maybe English is not their first language or second language, so that kind of plays a part too, because it's just a global reach. Like people just coming from global, remote areas, war-torn areas, like inner cities, all just, or the suburbs.
Yeah.
Just, and then sometimes I just, sometimes I post stuff like, shout out to all those taking their exam in a second language or a third language, or shout out to anyone speaking a second language and working a security job in their second language instead of their primary language. And that brings out a lot of the followers. Like, yes, thank you for standing up for us. Thank you for noticing us. That's really who we are here. That's why we don't really say anything, but that makes them comfortable.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, just think
hey
about
guys,
it. Like, if you learned a second language and you went to another country and you have to work in that country in that language,
it'd be extremely difficult. Hey, Americans, we're so lazy. We don't even think about a second language. We feel like the world needs to know our language, right?
Yeah, you got to speak American. That's it.
I wish
I speak 2 languages.
Me too.
Cajun. Cajun doesn't count.
I speak
Jason.
I speak Texas too.
Yeah, we got it. I can speak some fluent Texas, brother. Well, hey guys, let's jump into another topic here. It seems to me that, like, when we're talking about cybersecurity as a whole, once you get your CISSP, there's so many different directions that can take you as far as a career. And, the depths of these domains is immense. And you're going to learn a lot just studying for the CISSP. But it's kind of like, once you get the certification, I don't want to say the world is your oyster. It's not that great. But you can go out and land a really good IT job once you get it, because let's face it, you've already got some experience if you're out there passing the CISSP. So I'm curious, Luke, where do you feel that you're seeing most of the newly anointed CISSPs gravitating towards? And with the introduction of AI into technology today, maybe where do you see that changing over the course of the next several years?
I think AI is only going to augment everything in cybersecurity. It's going to enhance it. It's going to make it better. You can even see something in the future called an AI analyst, like an AI analyst, someone who makes sure the keywords that you punch into ChatGPT or any other interface is exactly what the company is looking for, exactly what your department is looking for. So you're not just wasting your time typing what you shouldn't be typing. You have someone who's very well versed, who knows how to exactly manipulate ChatGPT with the maximum output. And you can even have security professionals using AI who are in charge. I think you touched on that earlier, Jason. Who are in charge of the AI? There's a term for it I heard. It's called explainable AI, it's important, especially for me, because it explains where the AI data inputs are coming from. So if the data inputs are coming from a legitimate source, so the role of the AI analyst would have to be, they assure their customers, clients, and everybody else that their use of AI is properly done. The data inputs are non-biased. They come from a legitimate source. They have integrity. They haven't changed, and the output is exactly what they need. So the influence of AI is based on a standard level, and nothing from an influence that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Someone who explains that AI is being used properly in the company. It's not just freely used.
That's a great answer to that question, because I'm sitting here thinking, most people would say, well, okay, prompt engineering is where everything's going. You just need to know how to talk the language, right? You need to know how to make some sort of learning language model, text-based database, spit out what you really want to see. But you're kind of leaning more on the side of the security of it and the behind-the-scenes integrity of the system. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot.
So going down a path, as we were going to this, I got to share, guys, with you guys this thought that I was having the last couple of days. So I've been doing some very cutting edge, like on the fringe edge work with AI. And it's been forcing me to think deeper about how the path that we're on with AI could introduce new security threats that we need to be able to combat. And it led me to a strategy that is currently being developed and researched, where it has huge upside potential, but it also has a wide open door for potential threats, for potential threat vector. And it is the ability to chain together multiple AI agents or large language models to perform tasks or processes in such a way that those agents act as a team, that a functional team where each agent has a specialty that is its job. And the team together can cross-check each other, can validate what's happening, can perfect the output to the point where the final product is something that is more accurate than a human team would be able to produce, because they're running through multiple iterations through these AI engines and constantly correcting themselves to get to an output. Here's where it gets interesting. These agents also have the ability to auto-generate a real-time executable code in stream. So as they are performing functions, they can generate source code that they can execute that could correct functions that they're executing on, and basically be able to, if you draw that out all the way out, basically auto-heal themselves or create self-healing systems. Now, great, awesome potential, but security implications lead you to, wow, so a hacker would have to hack an LLM to the point where it can inject or force it to inject the generation of threatening code and execute it real time, and then dispose of the code, and you would never even know what the code base was that got executed. That gets scary, because how do you stop it? And
so would it be more like a one depends on the other, the previous, like a blockchain, like a chain,
yeah,
like the one node depends on the
Yep.
other? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd have to somehow step in the middle of that chain and break one of the weakest links. You'd have to put kill switches in it, basically, because it sounds like what you're talking about is daisy chaining databases,
Yeah.
or daisy chaining multiple learning language models that have different segmented areas of expertise,
right,
so to speak.
Right. And so if none of the large language models have the ability to catch the flaw of a hacker injecting or forcing the LLM to create suspicious code, and the suspicious code gets executed, and they all agree, yep, this is legitimate code, it will execute, that's their level, then this code will execute and then dispose of itself out of memory, and you won't even know it ever happened, and it just does all of its disastrous work.
AGI is just scary as hell.
Yeah.
Let's just say it. It's scary as hell.
So my point there is that there are some potentials long term down the road where we start getting to things like self-healing systems that we as security professionals will need to be thinking ahead about in order to combat that. Now, the other rosy pie sky thinking about that is that there's a lot of upsell potential for new startups to have some great solutions out there to fill in here. So business perspectives are great, to solve these problems, but there's just we're going to need a lot of open-minded, new way thinking security professionals out there ready to go to town on this stuff.
Yeah, you got to watch out for that, though. I like what Chris Glendon on our previous episode on this topic said, and it's going to open up a lot of new opportunities, but we're also, as security experts, going to have to be on our toes when it comes to these new startup companies that are saying they can sell you a miracle pill, or as he called it, snake oil.
Yeah,
AI snake oil. You got to be real cautious about what's being labeled AI and what they're selling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a magic bullet ever.
Yeah, that's why the role of the security professional who holds themselves to a high integrity has they got the stu guts to say no, this is not the way it is. We're not going to go with that. What is on the surface is not what's underneath the covers. Yeah. And I think there's going to be a role for that in cybersecurity. So there may be, there's issues that, AI is going to replace jobs or anything, but think about all the jobs that it's going to create as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I see a very bright future.
I do too. All right, guys. So look, let's jump into this last part of this segment. And Kevin and I was walking through this, and we thought, we've heard a lot from Luke, and we've talked a lot about some thoughts and ideas. But what if we took the perspective of what the Facebook members, might want to ask Luke? And so we pulled some questions from Facebook members that we want to ask you, Luke, and just walk through that section for a little bit. So this is our first one. So this one is from Prashant Mohan. And his question was, who is your biggest inspiration from this industry?
That's easy. That's Prashant and Prabnar, of course. They're my brothers. No, yeah. Prashant Mohan is the author of the Memory Palace. He wrote that in a lot of his lifetime, and he gave that away for free. And Prab, I work with those guys on a couple of discussions, and these guys, my thing is like I only look up to people I've worked with and interact with personally, and that includes you too as well. And I don't look up to people I haven't. I mean, it's not that I don't look up; I don't have any connection with them. So people like Prab and Prashant are doing such free work, so much work in their own time, and creating videos for the CISSP, CCSP, all these certifications, helping people around the world. You see their name attached to all the success stories. People I admire are like my colleagues at work, network security professionals, senior level engineers, because we've been through the suck together. We've been through those 4 days of an incident, and none of us have gone home. Okay, our teammates, our other colleagues have gone home. We're sitting there, bloodshot eyes, trying to figure this out. We've been through it together, and just to see these guys come in at 7 a.m., leave at 2 a.m. the next day, working with the night shift. We all leave together. We all, not anymore, but we used to just go outside, smoke cigarettes together, chat about what happened, discuss solutions, discuss problems. And then there was a call one time where it was just the 4 of us versus about 30. I say versus like we're attacking them. It really was a versus versus like 30 other people in other companies saying, like, hey, the situation is not our fault. The packet has left our environment. It's left the firewall. There is a destination host unreachable somewhere on your network. This is what we're saying. And they brought on like 4 CCIEs to confirm, like, it is not our issue. CCIEs, those guys are amazing, by the way. They got networking to them is like, I wish I was a CCIE. Like those guys, CCIEs, I have a high respect for those guys. But to go against them and to try to prove them wrong, the 4 of us against the 4 of them, quad CCIE. Some of them were quad CCIEs, means they have 4 CCIE certifications. Wow. That's a lot for one guy. So we stuck to our guns. We know what the packet showed, and we have a master engineer. He helped us out. So together we worked this problem, and we stayed up all night, and we worked for days. And we got suits chasing after us saying, "Give us an answer." And we just been through it, man. Like we traveled to Europe together, and we were just maybe separate. If we were separated together, we weren't so powerful, but 4 of us combined, we were like the perfect human being. We went through the security of other countries. We VPN'd everywhere, used VMs. It's just my colleagues at work that I really admire, because they go through it, man. Like when everyone's losing their head, they're sitting there, they're doing their work. No one's trying to go home. No one's making excuses. Everyone's looking up something on the internet. Someone's doing this responsibility. So I just look up to like my colleagues and the people I work with, and just everyday people in cybersecurity. That just really inspires me.
Absolutely.
I feel that, man. I feel that, because just about 3 weeks ago, we were chasing an issue at my work. Several of my colleagues were on a Zoom call on a Saturday, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. We were on for 13 hours chasing a problem, something that we assumed was legit, only to find out later that, it wasn't really a major thing. But when you say forged in fire with the other members of your colleagues, that's what that's all about, man. You get in there and you start to fight these things together, and you start to earn a different kind of respect for them. They're giving up their Saturday too to help you, you're giving up your Saturday to help them. That's huge. That's huge.
And there was one instance where, we had this massive hospital, like with 200 VPNs. They're like, we need to migrate to a different firewall, like just a simple upgrade. 200 VPNs at one firewall, and we had to do it all manually. There wasn't a script that we can write and do it. So I said, and I took the responsibility, and my other colleague took the responsibility, and they said, this has to happen 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning, so Friday night. I'm like, hey, I told them, I was like, yeah, I got this one. I'll take care of it. It should be a simple push. And they're like, and they didn't have to work. They're like, nope, Luke, we'll join you at 2 a.m. All three of us. We're going to join you on that call at 2 a.m. Let's get on earlier at 1 a.m. Discuss it, go over all the static routes, go over all the IP configurations, drink our coffee. And they stayed on the call with me till 5 a.m. till we just, I mean, for them to just volunteer and be there, and believe me, I wanted them to. I was like, I don't think I could do this alone. I wish you guys would do it. And they didn't have to say it. They just said, we're going to be there with you. We're going to make sure this thing goes smoothly.
That's awesome.
That's incredible.
That's awesome. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the CCIE. I remember there was a time early in my IT career where I thought, man, do I want to chase CCIE? Then I heard about it. Then I read about it. Then I researched it. And I'm like, oh my God, really?
Yeah.
You got to go in, even after you pass the exam, you got to go in and pass the lab.
Yep.
And this is a lab where they fly you into freaking Palo Alto or wherever it was in California, Silicon Valley. They're going to fly you into their lab. You pay for your expenses to get there. You're paying, I don't know, back in the day it was probably $1,500 to take the lab. Yep. And you can get all this stuff set up and prove that you know how to configure everything that they have to offer in their product line. And then they're going to send you off to lunch while they wreck everything that you did. And you got to figure out how to fix everything. And they throw bugs in it and problems that you wouldn't anticipate. These guys have earned that title when they're CCIE.
You got it, man. There is no paper CCIE. And the funny story you said about that, I had a guy who went into his CCIE exam, and he couldn't figure out why there was no like layer 2 connectivity. He couldn't figure out why it was no connectivity. He couldn't figure out why the IP wasn't happening. So he's like, I use the process. And even CCIEs, they use the OSI model too. That's not just like beginner guy. Yeah. And he couldn't figure out, like, why is this not connecting? And what happened was, during his lab or before his lab, when he went to, like, when they came and like checked it, they left everything the same, but they didn't fully. They just dislodged the Ethernet, the Cat5 Ethernet cable just a little bit, so it looked like it was plugged in, but it really wasn't, and that was the issue, a layer 1 issue. So the plug was not all the way plugged in. So he's like, all you have to do is plug it right back in, and that would solve all your problems. I was like, that is insane.
Wow,
that's insane.
Guys,
that's pretty crazy. Yeah, so that just goes you to what links they want you to really think about every little thing to pass that exam.
But those are real life issues too, right? Because
that's it.
They're real life issues. I mean, I spent 4 days this week. I spent 4 days working a problem that was similar to that on a cloud to cloud architecture that I thought was all network related. It presented itself as it was all network related. And I built a lot of security into this thing. So there's a lot of layers I have to look at and validate. And the problem was I was chasing 2 issues. And the 2 issues were compounding each other and putting me in circles until I was able to isolate it enough and take a step back and come into it with a fresh thought. And I'm like, okay, let's go back to what the original problem was again. What was that original problem? And it led me back to what the first real issue was. And if I would have just stayed within that issue and not taking in consideration all this other noise, I would have been able to solve the problem. So issues like that are real life issues, right? You can easily get into this trail of a bunch of different things that takes you away from where the real issue is, when the real issue is pretty obvious in front of your face. It's something simple that you can fix. And it does. Yeah. I mean, that changes how you think, right? You need to really train your mind to think differently, so those real life issues, those simple ones, don't get you hung up for 4 days.
Yeah, not everything requires a complex answer.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the simplest.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Especially in IT networking, man. That's always the case.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into another question from another member of the Facebook community here. Guys, we're all forged in fire in IT, so I like this one. It's a good one. Luke, this one comes from, and I am so sorry if I'm butchering names here, but I'm going to do my best. Kumara Guru Munusanam.
Yeah.
How do you say that last name? Munusami.
Yeah. Shout out to Kumara and his family. I've talked to him over email quite a bit.
This is a great question too. I really like this. So he's asking, what is the biggest failure that you've encountered in life, or failures that almost made you want to give up on your career?
Kumar, I hope your family's doing good. Um, I uh, I don't have it in me to. I come from a different kind of background, not a tough background, not a stoic background. Just I I can't think of a time I gave up on anything that changed my life. That would change my life. If something has to be done, it has to be done. So I'm not a giving up kind of guy. Like I in my the way I grew up is if you give up, you're done. Like that's the end. You're gonna lose everything. So that was instilled on me earlier. Like you don't give up. Like you have to do this. You don't care about yourself. Don't care. You just have to get it done. So I'm sorry I can't answer like when I gave up because I don't have an example of that. But I will give you an example of a failure which was really bad, and that was when after high school, my parents didn't really have money to send me to college. So after high school, they did have money to send me to community college. So my mom would work retail and she would pay for my college and the first 4 years. And she paid for that while working retail, standing up 60 hours a week. And, I blew that money. I wasted it. I didn't get good grades. I would take some of that book money and do what I did with it. And I would never go to class. And I was in my teens or something like that. And I realized that, I failed my mom. My mom would work so hard to pay for this college. And I failed her. I totally failed her. That's my very first. That was really my real failure in this life. That my mom worked so hard in this like really crap job, and I didn't respect her money, and I used to steal like 20s out of her purse. Um, so that was a big failure on me, and I told her after that, I'm like, okay, you know what, mom, I messed around in 4 years. These next 2 years, I went to community college for 6 years, by the way. Then I switched to George Washington, and those 2 years at GW, I said I'm gonna pay for that on my own. So I got a job, and again, I pay for the student loans and all that kind of stuff, and I made sure she never has to do that again. And now I shove $1,000 in cash in her purse every time I see her for all the time she spends
That's
that money
awesome.
on me. So my failure is that I failed my mom and messed around in college when I should have respected her hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but your success is that you got to turn around and make amends for that.
I
Uh,
did. That is
and your
that is
success, your
that.
perseverance is what granted you that ability to do that. So that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, that.
So I got one for you. So here's one from Jamie Strauss. Are there specific study techniques or strategies you recommend for mastering difficult topics?
Yeah, I would say it would be the same as mastering a language you're trying to learn. So it's going to take immersion. So, say the topic is network security. You don't like network security, you don't like how it's done, or you don't understand it in the books. If you don't have security experience, you can hack your life and kind of get that experience. Back to what I said about looking up in forums like current troubleshooting techniques, or you can go to YouTube and you can type in IPsec. You can type in OSI model, but don't type CISSP after that. Just leave the CISSP out of it. Just type in OSI model, type in IPsec, type in VPN, type in layer 2 switching, layer 3 networking, type in JavaScript, how to write a simple program, how to follow this process. That'll give you the real life basis and how it's done in the real world. And once you see it in the real world, you can correlate that to your learning just a little bit. So instead of just reading the definition from the book the entire time and never getting it, once you see the actual implementation, you'll understand it.
That's good advice.
So that is one way to really hammer those really difficult topics.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Good answer.
Right. And the other way you can try to is read the Cybex, read the Sean Harris, read 2 other CISSP books on the exact same topic, see what they say, and write just a 1-line summary of each from each book on a piece of paper. Right. Actually handwrite it with your hand and see where the similarities and where the differences are.
That's an interesting concept.
That's
too.
really good advice. Yeah.
I like that.
I like that.
And then follow that up with how to think like a manager and learn the real answer that they want you to say,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's either your beginning book or your final book.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would say it's your final book. You need to read that one right before you go test because it gets you in the mindset. All right, I got one here, again, on study advice. This is from Giovanni Ramini. What resources do you recommend for further self-study outside of the classroom?
Ooh, that's a good one.
We've covered some of them. I know what one is.
One of my favorites is something called Google Scholar. So if you type in Google Scholar and you go there, these are legitimate PhD level .edu .education .university type papers. So Google Scholar is great because you know the source is good. These are papers. Type in anything on there, and you will see a lot of hard research done by students for their PhD papers, and you get a lot of information from that. Just try to use Google Scholar as much as you can. The other one, and one of my favorites, is reading those dry NIST documents, those NIST documents. I know. Nobody wants to read that word for word, and I'm telling you, I'll be the first one to tell you, you don't have to do that. Just pick up the one on disaster recovery. Just pick up just the 8 domains of the CISSP, okay? Just those, and just read the headings and the first 2 lines. That's all you gotta do. I read those things for fun. I read it cover to cover because I like that, and I like to see who which the cabinet member writes their signature at the bottom of each NIST document. I like that, per whoever is in office at the time. So NIST documents, Google Scholar, these are good external research. And you can also try to, if you want, you don't have to read books all the time. Watch a cybersecurity movie or read a cybersecurity book, and you'll see a lot of correlation between what you're studying in that movie. Some may be hilarious, some may be accurate.
Yeah. Catch Me If You Can. It's a little bit hilarious in some spots, but it's a good movie.
Well, and I'm glad you said that about, studying things like NIST and those documents. I have read several of those, and I'm entertained for a point. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, this is more of the same regurgitation of the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then I just get uninspired to read the rest of it.
Yeah. That's drier than even the CISSP books.
Yeah.
Who writes those? Who writes those things?
Oh my God.
And why?
They're brutal.
All right. So I have one from Annabelle Matthew. What, in your opinion, are the most crucial security best practices that every aspiring CISSP professional should know?
Very best practices.
It's a good question. You guys help me out on this too. What do you guys think on that one? I would say identity management, multi-factor.
Yeah,
right?
if you look at any cybersecurity insurance questionnaire today, the one that you're inevitably going to get is MFA, right? Yeah. And I think that's kind of an easy answer to solve a major problem.
Yeah.
I think,
but I would say honestly, there's
right. Let's say the common ones, MFA, like you just said, user awareness, 100% user awareness.
Absolutely,
you've got to have that. If you're not doing that, something's wrong with you, right? So user awareness. The next one in the tier, I think GRC. Anything around GRC. If you are in a business and you have commitments to customers, then you have to adhere to some level of GRC in your organization. Some organizations have a lot more and is broader, and some organizations are not as broad, but you need to understand what that is, and you need to make sure that you're applying it. And that kind of goes along with what you were saying earlier, Luke, about policies. You can't do anything without a policy, but those policies have to align with governance risk, and controls around that part of GRC. And so you need to understand what your commitments are under those terms. It kind of just goes back to things like keeping people in your company, your employees safe, protecting your assets, protecting the business, and what are protecting the data and what's associated with that. So the controls you put in place to make sure those things are done right are the things that you should focus on the most immediately.
And how about this one? How about lessons learned from anything that happened? Yeah. Learn the lesson of what happened afterwards. For those controls, what if those controls failed? Why did they fail? Don't just be done with an incident, but also learn what happened from it. That's where you get who said that? What question did I miss? Einstein said that if you don't experience something, I missed that question. That's why. You got to learn from your mistakes.
That's
right. Right? Einstein said that if you didn't learn from experience, you'll never fail or something like that.
So what did you learn tonight, Luke? You learned that you need to study some more Einstein?
Yeah, I got to read Einstein's book, more of his quotes. Yes, exactly.
Well, that this kind of goes back to your business continuity, incident response plan, and disaster recovery. The whole reason why one of the last steps on your disaster recovery plan is a post-mortem get-together is so that you can do those lessons learned and you can improve the process and get better over time. That's the reason you do tabletops too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not really in the fire. It's harder to think when you're in the fire and you're trying to put the fire out than if you're just doing a tabletop and you're practicing what you're going to preach.
Yeah.
And Jason covered that in our other CISSP episode, is always practice how you're going to play.
Yeah, like you want to know how to think like a manager? Here, I'll tell you how to think like a manager. Managers hate it when you make the same mistake twice. You don't want to do that.
Sure.
Yeah, that might be a resume generating experience right there.
Yeah.
Well, look, guys,
don't make the same mistake twice.
We went long on this segment. Let's take a quick break and then come back for a short recap at the end. Do something fun and close this episode out.
All right, let's do it.
CISSPs demand a minimum of 5 years of experience in 2 or more of the total number of domains given in the CISSP Common Body of Knowledge. However, 1 year out of the total required experience can be waived off if an applicant holds a 4-year college degree in the same field, its regional equivalent, or collegiate eligibility as stated by ISC squared. The CISSP certification is respected and valued and is in high demand by major firms like Google and IBM, among many others. It is also considered as one of the most recognized certifications in the IT industry. The average salary of a CISSP certification comes in around $170,000 per year, as per a survey conducted by PayScale. Looking at the figure, one can quickly determine the kind of potential that this certification holds and the opportunities that it can provide.
Welcome back to the Cyber Distortion Podcast. We're on the second part of this episode, and we've been having a lot of fun tonight with our guest, Luke Ahmed, and we are excited about this next part. This next part is all about having fun and exposing to all of you a little bit more of the personal side of Luke. And we tend to have a lot of fun when we do this part of this segment. So, look, here's how this is going to work. I'm going to ask you some questions. They're going to be quick hit questions. You're going to have 2 answers, and just answer them with the first answer that comes to mind, and we'll walk through this and keep on going. It's usually pretty fun because
I'm nervous.
You get to a point and you're like, oh man, that's a really good one. I don't know how I should answer that. And then, we take whatever you come up with, right? It'll be unique and in the moment. So I'll ask you some.
Right, hit me.
Kevin, I'll ask you some, and then we'll kind of roll through the end of this segment. So, you ready?
Yeah, ready.
All right. Kevin, are you ready? You don't look ready.
I'm ready, bro. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Right, get your excitement on, man.
Do you want to alternate, or do you want to go, you ask yours and then I ask mine?
No, I'm going to do one of mine, you one of yours. We're going to alternate.
Well, okay, cool. Yeah. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Get your excitement on. You ready? All right, here we go.
I'm ready.
All right, Luke, here we go. All right. Time travel to the past or to the future?
Future.
All right. Robot butler or flying car?
Flying car.
Wine or beer?
Beer.
Beer. I like it. I like red. There's a good place for red wine, though. Just saying.
Okay. Noted.
All right. Text message or phone call?
Text message.
Yeah.
Oh.
If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Popcorn or candy at the movies?
Popcorn.
And do you bring your own?
Candy.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Oh man, you can't top movie theater popcorn though. How is that going to be topped
No, dude,
with something you bring
Dude,
in?
my wife started this thing a long time ago, man. She's always like, we go to a movie, she's like, got a stash that she's bringing in. I'm like, you're not supposed to do that. No, but it's our thing. That's what we do. I'm like, no, it's not a thing.
She sneaks in a whole backpack.
I know.
We'll buy the popcorn, but my wife wouldn't. She'd be like, "I'm just gonna throw it away." I'm like, "Don't throw it away. We can take that home and eat it." It's like nobody ever eats the popcorn when you bring it home. I'm like, I'll eat it this time.
Yeah.
Oh, my wife got me one of those. We have a media room in the house, and for Christmas one year, she knew I wanted the movie theater style popcorn. She bought me one of those popcorn makers.
Oh,
Dude,
nice.
That thing is legit.
It's legit. I had that last week at a friend's house.
Yeah.
It's legit.
Oh, it's so good, man. Those are the best. Those are the best.
It's red, right? Like it's red and it has that light inside, and you scoop the popcorn out.
So it's just like that, but mine is painted black.
Okay, nice.
It looks it's really cool looking.
Real nice.
Yeah.
I think you got the cheap one.
All right,
Kevin.
No, I got the Premier, the elite
Premier,
model.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right.
The luxury model.
You know me, Jason. I don't do anything
I know,
cheap.
right?
That's why I stay in the doghouse with her all the time. What are you kidding? All right, Luke. Morning person or night owl?
Night owl.
Me too.
Coke
Me too.
or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Oh, you notice how I said Pepsi? Sophisticated and all.
Let me take a quick look at Luke's desk. Okay, I don't know how he's going to answer this because it's neither Mac or PC.
I knew that. You can see it back there, man. That's gaming style
PC.
right there,
Well,
baby.
I didn't know if that was an Alienware type PC or something special.
No, you're special, Kevin. Android or
Hey.
iPhone.
Thank you.
iPhone.
My mom always told me that.
iPhone. You went iPhone, Kevin. You're next.
Yeah.
Oh, that one stings a little
I'm
bit.
with
I'll
you.
be honest.
No green text message from
Yep,
me.
I'm with you.
Gotta be the blue.
All right, Halloween or Christmas?
Christmas.
Summer
Christmas.
or winter?
Oh, summer. Easy. Summer.
Cake or pie?
Pie.
Man, I'm starting to like this guy a lot, man. That's good. He's hitting all of my favorites. All right.
You got all the same.
Books
All
and
right.
movies.
Books.
Because he's a best-selling author.
Yeah,
That one's
just
pretty
say
simple.
that.
All right, this one can start sword fights and debates that cost people their lives right here. Chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla.
Ooh, he goes alternate.
Yeah.
I'm a chocolate
vanilla.
guy, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Comedy or horror?
Comedy.
pop or rock?
Rock.
Ah, heck yes.
Interesting. Yeah, why didn't you put R&B on there, Kevin? I see what you're doing here, man. You're influencing.
Hip hop
Jason-
would have been my answer if it was there.
See, you put the wrong question on to begin with.
Is this unconscious music bias? Is that what we're going to label this?
All right.
Hey, you know what? Honestly, ask ChatGPT why there's some unconscious bias in there. Because that's where these came from.
All right. Sneezing or hiccups?
What? I'll go with a very loud room shaking sneeze.
Oh,
That's
all
me.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Truth. Wait, this one needs to be last. You go
Okay.
first, Jason. I got this.
All right. Facebook or Instagram?
Instagram.
Oh.
Instagram. Yeah.
Wow. You know what just happened? Do you hear that, Jason?
Mhm. I hear.
Uh-oh.
I hear
I lost a few members. I lost a few members in that one.
I heard the sound of 53,000 people getting
Oh,
pissed off just then.
no. Come back, guys. Come back.
No. Facebook's good.
They're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. It's late. They're probably
It's the
asleep.
same
Don't
thing.
worry about
It
it.
is. All right, Kevin.
All right. Truth or dare?
Truth.
What's the most unusual thing that you consider yourself afraid of?
I would have to say, and especially because you live in Texas, I don't know if I'll be visiting you. That would be cockroaches.
Oh, Cockroaches.
Yes.
Yeah, they are
Yes.
nasty.
Correct.
They are.
Correct.
Dude,
Now,
you have
no,
a
I don't
lot
get the
of
Texas
reason.
reference. We don't have cockroaches.
You
No.
don't? Because everybody
Yeah, Kevin doesn't
I've
know
met
what
from
he's
Texas,
talking
they're
about,
like,
Luke. Let me tell you a story.
I'm lying,
Texas was a
dude.
big. Oh,
We
Yeah,
have
hold on.
everything
Let me
here.
tell
We
you-
have
That's what I'm
tarantulas,
saying.
cockroaches.
That's what I'm
we have
saying.
it
Let me
all.
tell you a story. So I grew up in Louisiana. I'm originally from Louisiana, and I can tell you stories when I was a kid. We didn't have air conditioner. We didn't have a lot of money, So our house was pretty poor and run down, and it gets pretty darn hot in Louisiana, especially in the
Oof.
summertime. And so we would sleep with the windows open. Bad
Oh, my
idea,
God.
dude. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with cockroaches that big crawling all
Oh,
over
Oh
me.
my God.
Right, and there's nothing
Please.
worse than feeling something just crawling all over you, and you like, what?
For real.
And they're all
For
over the place,
real.
man. It was a nightmare.
I would lose my effing mind,
That was
dude.
nuts.
Let me tell you something. Everybody thinks they're a tough guy till the cockroaches start flying. Okay.
That's right.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Jason, were you there? Did you go with me to Black Hat the year that they had the cricket infestation?
Yes.
Dude, that
Ooh,
was so nasty.
yeah. It was locusts, man. It was
It was-
locusts.
Whatever it was freaking
It was the
everywhere.
start of the
You couldn't walk
apocalypse.
without stepping on it.
Yeah, it was horrible,
Yeah.
man.
Yikes.
Dude, you would have thought it looked like something from Nightmare,
Yeah.
like a horror movie.
Yeah.
By the way,
We
Luke,
had-
be glad you didn't choose Dare on that last question. You
Yeah,
would have
I
had
know,
to make up
I know
a short
that.
rap. I would have had you making
I
up a
know
short
better.
rap about a
know
random
better.
object in the room.
All right, guys. But look, we need to wrap this up. This has been awesome. It's been a fun night. We could have went.
Really has.
I've really had to work hard, and I think Kevin, you will attest to this. How many times I told you we keep going long. We got to cut this back a little bit because we could talk forever with you, Luke, on all of these topics. In fact,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that I just feel like we try to condense a lot of our conversations in a short amount of time. But we do have to end it, and for the sake of our listeners and our viewing audience. And I think that there's a lot of gold nuggets in these 2 episodes that we've just done. I hope that you continue to do the things that you're doing because you are making a difference. You made a difference for Kevin and I. And it's one of the reasons why we gravitated to wanting to communicate with you so much. We're appreciative of all of the support that you give us. And we hope that you just continue to do the work that you're doing and encourage more CISSPs to continue to take the trek and continue to do what we're doing, giving back and growing the community and helping out more people, because that's how we all win.
Yes, sir. And thank you for having me on here. And I plan to do just that. I feel like I've just only scratched the surface or just getting started. I plan to come out with a new CCSP course, maybe a second edition of Think Like a Manager, and maybe like a audible version. Do you think that'll be worth do you think the audio version of my book would be worth it? Like, should I do that?
Absolutely.
Did you hear me earlier say how I'm a visual guy, or I love to have them? I'm the guy that if I get a book on Amazon, I get the Audible only because I want it read to me.
But it's like a practice question and explanation. You think that would
No, it
work?
works
like
great.
A practice question.
So it works great.
and
So one of my study
I do.
tactics that I did on the
Okay.
CISSP was that. So not only did I have books that I read, I also had audio books that I played nonstop while I was driving to and from work or when I was at the gym working out. And those all had practice questions in it. So they'd go over a topic, and then at the end, it had a recap with practice questions. And what I found myself doing, and I listened to it on a faster speed. And what I found myself doing is listening to a practice question, and then trying to quickly force myself to answer a question before they answered it and told me what the answer was, and then to see if I was correct. And it perfected my ability to not judge my thinking, to come up with a thought, think about it, make a decision, and then move on. And I got better at answering questions that way. So I think that's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Duly noted.
Yeah.
Thank you for that advice. Okay. It's in
I
the
think
works.
so.
And, I will keep doing this until people tell me to stop, or they don't like me anymore, or they say I'm done or has been. And that's as long as I'll be doing it. this I wake up every day, I'm like, is the CISSP still a thing? I hope it's not gone anywhere. Like, and everyone tells me like, stop, especially Thor's a good guy too. He's like, don't worry, this thing is going to be around for a long time. Cybersecurity is going to be around. We probably haven't even started cybersecurity at all. There's so much more in the future that's coming along. So I kind of like hearing that from people and getting confirmation that, things are working. I'm doing a good job, and I will keep on doing that. Yeah.
Well, I don't really know Thor, but I agree with him. I think it's going to be here for a long time. Even the CISSP is going to be here for a long time because, quite honestly, it's the most prestigious certification you can get in this industry, and everybody wants to chase that. And I believe that people that are in this industry that really want to better their career and take themselves as far as they can go, they want to challenge themselves.
Yeah.
And this is definitely a challenging exam, and it's a challenging endeavor, and it's not, you're going to look back on it at some point and be extremely proud of the achievement. And I know we are. I know I always will be as long as I'm in cybersecurity. And I've said this before, there's not a year that goes by that I'm either at Black Hat or at a security conference or even in a cybersecurity demo with a vendor that I don't think about the effort that went into the CISSP. So, agree, not going anywhere.
Well, with that, guys, we are going to call it a night. We want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Luke, for joining us tonight. Thank you, guests, and for all of our viewers for joining us in this episode. We hope that you are getting a lot out of this, and we look forward to sharing our next episode with you next time.
Yep.
Thank you very much, guys.
See you soon, everybody.
See you guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Cyber Distortion Podcast. We're pleased that we now offer and have many options for consuming the content of our episodes. We offer the audio-only versions on all major streaming audio platforms. We offer video and audio formats, so you can take in all of the rich content visually if you'd like to. That's over on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/@the-Cyber-Distortion-Podcast. Don't forget to help us grow the podcast by subscribing while you're out there. Feel free to drop comments on what topics you'd like to see us cover for future episodes. You can also visit our brand new blog site. That's out at cyberdistortionpodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter @DistortionCyber is our handle. We release discount codes, blurbs about upcoming episodes, blog links, and of course, talk about drop locations for swag while we're out at various cybersecurity conferences like Black Hat and DEF CON. Speaking of swag, we have officially opened up the long-awaited Cyber Distortion swag shop, which is accessible either on our blog site at cyberdistortion.com or online directly at cyberdistortionswag.shop. We have tons of really cool new swag to offer to help get the name out about the podcast, and we're releasing new items all the time. We're offering lots of discount codes right now at the end of most of our episodes, so listen for those and watch the Twitter page because we drop those there as well. I believe that's it for now, so until next time, cheers everybody, take care, stay diligent, and remember, you are the last line of defense.